So, meanwhile, I think it's a good point to talk about Redocto and what we are thinking of offering here. We at Redocto we think that we are offering mental health solutions, especially using technology, since technology and health are often not integrated properly. And the endeavor is to offer good and quality mental health care, which is accessible and affordable to all. So in this endeavor, we have started online website. We have started these webinars, which are we where we bring to you speakers from all over the world who join us in discussing about the relevant topics, especially around mental health. In the last 1 month, the topic has obviously been around the pandemic, because that's what has been is in the front on for all of us and all our minds. So as we talk about the pandemic, this is definitely not a one-time topic. The mental health implications and repercussions are manifold, and they go and they are impacting all the spheres of our life, which can range from our workplaces, which can range from our academic lives and personal lives, along with social time, and as we can all probably see and worry about, is the financial economic impact of this pandemic. So all these factors are not in our control, definitely, but there are a few factors which can be controlled, and one of them is to bring accessible mental health care to those in need, which is what we are planning to do here. Also, I'll take this, I think now is the time to start the session. I'll request everybody to keep themselves on mute. And also, I think we should make this a very interactive session, which is what was missing last time, where the speakers were there and there were a lot of participation from the audience, but we could not take all the questions that were coming in. So this time we would want all of you to be really interactive and put your questions across. We have a lot of time later in the later half of the session, where we'll be using that time to address specific individual queries. So please feel free to put in your queries. They will be kept anonymous, and we can start discussing them. Thank you so much, and I welcome you all for joining us here. I think this is it's also time to start the webinar. I would like to welcome Dr. Saloni here, who's our guest speaker today. Dr. Saloni, I think she's...
Yes, Dr. Sneha, I'm there.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I can see you now. So, hello and welcome to Redocto, and on this virtual platform where, and I take this liberty to welcome you from all our audience and the team at Redocto. So, Dr. Saloni, for our audience, I'll introduce you. She's an IAS and an additional mission director with the National Health Mission in Government of Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Saloni has been at the forefront fighting the pandemic at her stage, and she's doing a lot at her capacity to ensure that the health of the community, and specifically the mental health of the community, is taken care of, especially when it comes to regard to Madhya Pradesh. So welcome, Dr. Saloni.
Thank you, Dr. Sneha.
So for today's topic, we have kept the topic as the new normal and adjusting to the new normal. So what do you think is the new normal now?
I think the new normal is the fact that the physical distancing or social distancing, as they call it, is a part of our life now. The new normal is that we have to work from home most of the times. New normal is that we have to connect to our families and friends through digital world. The new normal is that we can't go often to malls and we can't go out for eating. The new normal is that we can't shop as much as we want to. So the definition of new normal is different for everybody. For students, it might be different. For people who are working, it might be different. For people who are housewives, it might be different. So across the perspective, yes, one thing is common, that physical distancing is going to be part of our lives, and some health related precautionary measures like washing your hands regularly, sanitizing your hands, sanitizing yourself, and your home is going to be a part of our life now, from now on.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I think this has to be repeatedly put into everybody's head that the new normal is physical distancing. And I think we should use the word as physical distancing and emphasize on it rather than making it a social distancing term, which can mean
I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Sneha.
yeah. And like you said rightly, this has impacted everybody in different ways, and the new normal is different for everybody. But somewhere the new normal is also collectively the same, where everybody is at a collective level maybe facing the same problem, but definitely the individual problems are also there. So if I start with you, how has your life individually gotten affected due to the pandemic initially, and what do you think has become the norm now?
Oh,
Just
so
generally health wise, or
yes,
like, yeah,
yes,
socially.
I'll tell you in detail. I like to be frank to the audience. So I'm an IS officer of 2014 batch, and I'm currently additional mission director with NHM. And those of you who know what NHM is, it's National Health Mission. So it's at the forefront of waging the war against the corona in the state. So my new normal is working excessively, working around 18 hours a day, working in the perspectives and in the shifts which I have not done, going into the areas which were totally unexplored for me. For example, I'll give you an honest review about it. So I have to make around 6 to 7 presentations daily, out of which 2 are for CM. So this was not which was supposed to be my core area, but this has become a new normal for me. So the new normal is the changing work perspective and changing environment at the work. Now we have to work with the less staff. Since I'm the sub boss over there, so I have to take care of my juniors that they don't fall sick. I have to take care that my building remains sanitized. I have to take care कि वहाँ पे कोई इस तरह की घटना नहीं हो जिससे कि the it becomes a containment zone. So the new normal is taking more care of your subordinates, working excessively, working in areas which were unexplored. So this is new normal for me.
True, that's true. And I think the new normal for you is in a way more uncertain and probably more worry inducing for then most of the individuals. Like you said, you are going out so
Yes,
much, you're
definitely.
making.
Each case counts for me. So even there's an increase of one case in the state that really puts me into the zone where I have to think that what can be done and what should be done and what are we missing upon to improve the health infrastructure of the state or to help improve the health status of the state.
The interesting thing that I notice here, like you said, is the presentations. The number of presentations that you have to make in a day has increased remarkably, and I think this can say say something about all of us, where individuals who were not in a way related, their work did not demand exposure to technology that much, have suddenly, like, technology has become a savior in this time of pandemic, where most of the things have started being happening virtually, and we have to want it or not be like really up to the task, like, to have and involve technology in our lives in a way that the menial jobs as well as the big jobs are done in the virtual world.
I couldn't agree with you more on this because I'm not a very tech savvy person. So I have not been into Zoom calls or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams. But now these terms seem so familiar, and you have to take all your meetings, all your trainings through these platforms. You have to give virtual presentations to the seniors. You have to give virtual presentations to your bosses and to the ones who are concerned. You have to address the grievances of the people. Now they are more once you go digital, the grievances also increase. So once you start getting all the grievances on a platform, you have to address and give an ear to all the grievances. So I think technology, use of digital media is also the new normal in this time of pandemic.
So that is what we are trying to do here at Doctor. Also, we are trying to use the online technology, the tools to make sure that mental health is accessible to everybody. And this is where we are holding this webinar also. So let's come to the topic of mental health. Do you think around you, when you've been involved in this work around the pandemic, so do you think around you saw any change in the mental health, general well-being and mental health of people around you during this time of pandemic?
Yes, of course. I think the people are, the stress levels are generally higher than the normal. So people are stressed out for various reasons. For example, a housewife may be stressed out that her husband is always at home and children are always at home. Children are stressed out because, they are not going to get to meet their friends. They are not going to schools. Students are stressed out because there is so much amount of uncertainty about when the schools and colleges will open. People who are working from home are stressed out because they don't know how to make their home a workplace. People who are working outside the homes like me are stressed out because they are in a constant fear of getting the infection. So I think the stress levels are generally high, and that's very much visible in different forms. For example, we have a helpline called mental health helpline, on which different people call for their mental health issues. So the numbers have increased to around from 4,000 generally to 7,000 in a day. So people are calling up, people are facing difficulty in facing the situation, and they need an ear and they need somebody to talk to. So I think the stress levels are generally higher, and that's how this pandemic has manifolded itself in terms of mental health.
True. And I think you covered all of these domains wonderfully. And one area that I think we always tend to miss is the area with individuals who are going to pass their colleges and move into the work life. So this year is definitely very uncertain for people, for
I,
those individuals.
yes, I know of people who have messaged me that, ma'am, this is our resume. If you can help us with the resume, because we've been called by this company and suddenly we are not being called, and or our joining has shifted to 4 months or 6 months, or people have shifted from Mumbai to Bhopal back. I know of so many instances where people are getting laid off from their jobs, are not getting the jobs, or are not happy with the current scenario of their jobs. So these three things are very much out and open.
So what can be a general advice for these individuals if you look at what would be your word on
I
this?
would say ki just hold on for some time and also start exploring the opportunities. Don't get stuck in one place. For example, if you have got the joining letter from one place and the place is not giving you joining, I think it's time to move on and to explore new areas. Also, there are many newer fronts of technology which are coming up. So it's a good time for many startups. It's a good time for many brainstorming ideas to flourish in the industry. So if you are one of those, or you have friends around who are one of those, who think alike, and you can make use of this pandemic in inventing something or in conceptualizing some idea, then I think it's a great time for those people. And don't hold on to your belief, but don't hold on to the place. I would say, if the place is not giving you joining, just let it go. You are well capable enough of getting joining at many other places. Just keep trying.
Thank you. The word of encouragement for everybody. And I also think, like you said, like you mentioned, necessity is the mother of invention. So this is a time which none of us have seen in our lifetime, and very few people have. So clearly it brings a set of problems, but problems also mean that there is a possible solution lying somewhere in the periphery. So for a lot of domains, people who are sitting at home could probably like brainstorm, and we have such brilliant kids studying in very good organizations, working in so many domains where they could never find a time to explore beyond. So probably
I
this is the time
absolutely
when.
I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Sneha, because who could think that we could have our indigenous PPE suits, we could have our indigenous ventilators, that we could have those ambulatory services which are running around, and all those pharmaceutical companies which are trying to make new drugs, and all those R&Ds, institutions which are now focusing on writing papers and finding the vaccine or whatever related to COVID. So this has opened the Pandora's box because this is new for everyone. So I think this brings upon a lot of opportunities, especially for those in the health sector or those related to health sector, financial sector, analysts. I know. So our institution only recruited so many analysts because there's so much data coming up, and we didn't know how to utilize that data. We didn't know how to analyze that data. So I mean, data analysts coming into National Health Mission is one of its time. So that's what I would want to urge all the youngsters also, that you have to explore yourself and explore the opportunities. There are great opportunities lying out there.
True, true. That's very true. I think when it seems that there is nothing, it's better to just take a step back, look at the whole forest, and try to find what area you want to work on. So, with your, I assume that because you're working, you are constantly in and out of the house, and so we have the audience who's mostly school, university students. For them, I think one of the major issues that when came up last time that we had the webinar, and also a lot of questions that keep coming on, are on relationships. So I assume that being working as a working female who's so in and out of the whole this place where there's constantly all the action happening, I'm sure there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a fear and worries regarding infecting somebody. Like you said, you have to sanitize the whole apartment complex, ensure that nobody falls sick. There are juniors and seniors around. You have to ensure the health, the general well-being of so many people with you. So relationship is also one component when we are trying to focus on work and profession and successful careers so much, which is neglected. And relationship could mean not just intimate relationships, but relationship with your siblings, with your parents. So at this point, what do you advise individuals who are going through so much on a professional level? What can be done to ensure that relationships go smoothly? Or
I have two advices. I'll cite my own example. So I was working very hard in times, and my husband, who's also an IS officer and who's posted as ADM Bhopal, was working almost 20 hours a day. And because we were both working in the field, we decided that we'll intentionally not meet each other and we'll be in separate places so that we do not infect each other and our family. So it was a decision that we took, and for 7-8 days and 15 days we stayed separately. We used to meet only once in 15 days, but that didn't hamper the relationship, because see, if you are well connected with your partner through this digital media and through use of technology, and the basis of your relationship is strong and solid and is based on trust, so I don't think this can bring any other problems in your relationship. The only problem is that, as I said, generally stress levels are very high. So it's very important for you and for everyone to speak out their partners, be their friends, be their girlfriends, boyfriends, husband, wives, mother, father, whoever you are in close touch with. Just speak out to them and explain them that this is how the pandemic is affecting you. It's very important to open up. Like we saw in certain recent times, people have not opened up. Especially I'm scared for the introvert people who don't generally open up. So open up to your partner. Your partner might not understand your problem in the first time, but keep explaining your problem to your partner or to your family, and keep telling them that how this is affecting you and what help do you seek from them. Sometimes we just tell our problems and we know the solutions, and we expect other person to know the solutions automatically, and we just want them to guess the solutions. So it is important to communicate it to them, to that how and what will make you feel better. So I think communication is the key uh, of keeping the relationships alive in this pandemic times. Maybe through digital media, maybe through phones, or through family meets, or through everything, because social gatherings have reduced. So through Zoom calls or any other way, You just be connected and communicate. That's more important.
Yeah, that's also the probably the mental health solution for a lot of things at this point, where there is isolation happening, there is physical distancing happening, and we are not able to meet probably the loved ones immediately, or we are waiting for lockdown to open up or international travel to open up at times to meet somebody and to reach out to individuals. So, but that should not help stop individuals from using the digital media to their advantage to reach out to individuals. And communication is the key, where expressing to your family and friends then what your needs are, and also asking them about their specific needs and how the pandemic is affecting them is very important. So I completely agree. One thing that I just came to me right now, Dr. Saloni, is that how this whole pandemic has sort of brought certain things out from the slumber. So, like, disability, some things, disabled individuals were always asking for these things, like, being made aware, like virtual media could have been used to that advantage, and it was always denied to those individuals. And now all of us, when forced, are having to do with it. So this is one important aspect that can be utilized later also, after the, like, once the new normal set in. I think for education or for doing attending webinars or conferences, don't you think that this should stay beyond, even after this pandemic is over?
Yes, I definitely think so, because this is now the way of life. The physical distancing will become a way of life. So I think we should adapt ourselves to this new forms of technology, and this is going to stay. This is I don't think it's going to go somewhere. In the recent future, we are going to stick to the webinars. We are going to stick to the online platforms, and it's not going anywhere. So it's better that we adopt to these technologies right away and start using them, because in coming future also they are going to be there.
So yeah, that's true. Like, even in the coming immediate future, it might seem like this pandemic is going to stay, and I think that this brings a lot of disappointment to individuals who were looking for convocation ceremonies, who were looking to go on new campuses and join. So I think they will be missing out all those things. What is your take on that? I mean, you remember the first time you went to college? I'm sure that must have been exciting and everything. So
Yes,
these.
of course. So for example, I just came to know that the academy in which IS officers are trained, the Labasna Academy, is not holding its phase 2 online. And my first reaction was, what is the use of phase 2 if it's not offline and they are making it online? So if you're not coming to Masuri and physically meeting all the people, what is the use of that? But we have to accept. See, acceptance is the first thing that has to come on within us, that this is the new normal and this is going to stay for a while. But things will also change. Things will change as things are slowly opening up. So it will take time for things to get normalized and to open up. But I'm sure there will be days as past when we will have our convocations, we'll have our parties, we'll have our gatherings. They will happen, but we have to wait till that time, and we have to be really patient. So one thing
And
this pandemic has taught me is to have patience.
true, true. That is true. I think everything can happen on a later date, but also virtual media can be used to, like, even create that celebration. So we don't, sometimes in our head we have such a fixated way of looking at things, because that is what we've seen happening for years. So, this idea that, oh, convocation can be any different from not being there. I know that might be like suddenly a very distressful feeling, but maybe it's just normal for us, because it has been happening for a long time, and once a new pattern comes in, maybe that becomes the new normal. So
I totally agree with you. And also, I would like to cite a personal example. Just a few days before, we had a virtual reunion of our college batch. So, in fact, not during the times of normal times, so called normal times, we never thought of having a reunion. But this pandemic times brought everyone together, and we had a virtual reunion. where some people were sitting in US, some were sitting in UK, some in some parts of India, some in other parts of India. Everybody gave their 10 seconds of a clip and we made a video and we had a virtual reunion. So this did not happen when the times were normal. So the abnormal times, I would say, are bringing out many beautiful things. So 130 people getting to meet each other, getting to know where the other person is and how the other person is the magic of the virtual media, which came during this time of pandemic.
True, true. I think anything we try to call as abnormal is something that we are not used to. So immediately, a lot of things which are new to us, to our upbringing, to our conventional ways of seeing things, might seem as abnormal to us. But gradually, I think the one thing that we can do is always keeping that window of acceptance a little broad, to allow more things, to allow more experiences. And I'm sure, like, maybe a year down the line or 2 years down the line, those experiences will also come in. It's not like the going anywhere, maybe 3 years down the line, but those experiences will happen. But obviously we have to integrate all the good things that we are learning during this time with our, so when we move forward 2 years down the line, 3 years the line, we should carry and assimilate all the learnings which have happened during this time, is I think.
Absolutely. As I told you, I'm learning to make presentations. This is a new thing for me. So I
Yeah.
will cherish these moments and I will use this skill throughout my life. So this is, I'm trying to take it in a very positive way and not thinking, oh, I'm an IS officer and how come I'm supposed to make presentations this of some junior or so. No, I'm not taking it that way. I'm learning so many things. I'm learning Excel. I'm learning PPT. So these things I'm learning and I'm taking it in a very positive stride. So it's always about the concept of half glass full or half glass empty. So I am looking at half glass full.
And always remember that the glass is refillable, so you can always refill it
Yes,
also.
yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and one thing that the pandemic again has got to the forefront is that the things that we are looking at a more inclusive, more global, and more like diverse education can be integrated now, which thing was missing in the past. So let's say because of many reasons, people were not able to attend colleges. If somebody in the family was sick, if they were going through a hard time, people would miss colleges. People would be, or maybe due to monetary issue, economy, economic condition of the family, people would be deprived of so many good things. But I think with the technology and everything coming to the house now, like even with this webinar, I had never done an online webinar before this pandemic happened, and I did not know the concept also.
So
So
also Dr. Sneha, one has to shed a lot amount of money to meet you if they have to do it physically. Now see, people are using this technology platform. They're getting your words and getting the advice from such a senior psychiatrist just free of cost. So it's all the work of the technology and this pandemic. People are getting free education, online sites, online health platforms are coming up. Video consultations have become a part. Video teleconsultation, telemedicine is the new factor which is coming up. So I think this is bringing a lot of new era. So rather than calling it new normal, we can confidently call it a new era.
yeah, true. And I'll request all our audience to please keep on sending in their queries, so we would be addressing them as we go along. Dr. Salori, we have a question here where somebody has tried to
Yes.
ask how to cope with negative thoughts which are prevailing in everybody's mind these days. What do you think can be?
My answer to that is, why coping? Why do you want to cope with negative thoughts? See, I honestly believe that if you have positive emotions, you will someday definitely get negative emotions. So negative emotions are part and parcel of life. At least for me, I'm telling from my own experience. It's not that the word is all rosy and good all the time. So I also feel negative at times. It's the fact that how you react to your emotions and how you react to those negative emotions is important. So you have a negative emotion and you want to cry, please cry. It's not a matter of shame at all to cry. I cry when I feel stressed. I cry when I feel overworked. I crib with my husband. I fight with my husband when I feel overworked. These are all expressions of my negative emotions. So to have negative emotions is not a bad thing. the expression of those negative emotions, how do you express? So that is the factor. So to the listener who has asked this question, I will only say that whenever you have negative emotions, accept that you are having a negative emotion, try to divert yourself and try to indulge yourself in some other work, and try to distract yourself so that things which make you happy you do, and they are replaced with positive emotions. But even if you're not able to have your positive emotions and the negative emotions are still continuing, just express them in a way which is not harmful to you and which is not hurtful to you and which is not harmful and hurtful to anybody else in your family. So if you want to cry, if you want to just close yourself in a room and sit alone for some time, that's all perfectly all right. Some people talk much when they are anxious, some people talk less. This is just an expression. So I would say negative emotions are totally fine. It's okay to have them. It's your expression and reaction to them that matters, and your reaction and expression to them should not be hurtful to you and to your family.
That's absolutely the right way to put it. Where I think even the second question came on the same line, that how to be happy all the time, and like you've said, that it's not possible humanly to escape all sort of emotions. I think the wonder of human life is that we have so many emotions, right? Even if it was a laughing, if we were happy and laughing all the time, we would rather be a doll, right? Or a robot which is just
I
laughing all the
absolutely
time.
agree. I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Sneha. I remember reading a book which says that happiness is overrated. We in the pursuit of happiness, when you pursue something, that thing goes very far away from you. So why pursue something when you can have it sometimes and you cannot have it sometimes? Just try to enjoy the pain, try to enjoy the sad moments also. I think that makes the life. If you have seen the movie Inside Out, that if you try to replace all your emotions with happy ones, then you will not be a human being. So
True.
it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be jealous. So these are part and parcel of life. I think we should cherish them. And I honestly don't try to be happy always. I am very sad at times, I am very angry at times, I am very mean at times, and that's me. So I think acceptance is more important.
Yeah, I think yeah, acceptance to how you are feeling is really important. At the same time, being mindful of how your actions can, like you said earlier, make sure that you are not harming yourself in the long run or not harming others with your emotions. Just ride the wave, just feel it, like let it pass through your body, let it pass through your minds. Not act on this, and not act on the negative thoughts or negative things that are going on your mind, or even the mean things that are going in your head. You might feel really mean about what somebody did. It's not necessary that you have to
Yes.
act on those things at any point. So
So I
somebody, yeah, please go ahead.
writing down writing down is a very important thing which I have realized in my personal life, that has helped me as an individual a lot. So whenever I feel something, I write it down, and after writing it down, the all the emotions, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, they just mellow down a little, because all they need is a venting out. And once you have vented them out on the piece of paper, they don't need you don't need to vent out them to some person. So writing helps a lot. Writing down your, even if you're not a good writer, believe me, I'm not. So just write down what basic things you are feeling about, and what are the pros and cons of these things. Just scribble, and believe me, it will melt down your emotions to a great extent.
That's really, I think that's really helpful advice, and it's very practical advice also. And on the same note, somebody has mentioned that if you can help them with how to deal with depression, I think I have to say that you for dealing with depression, you need to go to a mental health professional. What you might be meaning is how to deal with sadness of mood. In that case, like Dr. Saloni talked, like it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to let that emotion pass without making it act, without letting it make you act in a weird or wrong way. So somebody has asked again, like, is 6 hours of we'll be moving to the next question. Did you have something to say, Dr. Saloni?
I would just say, also we should not be shy away of asking for help. You know, there must be times. No one is perfect in this world. People think that I have a very good life from, you know, thinking that I did my MBBS, I did clear my IS in the first attempt, everything is fine in my life. No, it's not.
It is,
There are,
I also think it is. It
no,
isn't.
it's not.
Okay.
So there are things in my life also which trouble me a lot, and I do seek help for them, because I can't solve all my problems by myself. So the point is to understand that you are not perfect, and you might need some help from some professional, and it's okay to seek help. And that's what I've been trying to advocate in NHM also, by starting a mental health counseling helpline, that, you know, it's okay to talk to a counselor, it's okay to talk to a mental health professional, and just talk it out and get it away from you.
Right, right. Yeah, it's very important that when we feel that things are seemingly beyond our control, it's always okay to ask for help. If you feel not immediately, then there are a lot of organizations which are working. There are a lot of government setups that are working to provide helpline, like help to individuals who are in need. So it's always better to reach out and ask for help. So that's very relevant to the current scenario, like where people shy away from asking for help. People think that it's a stigma, right? So I'm sure when you were working in your you were working on setting up the mental health helpline, ma'am. You must have encountered resistance in terms of stigma. Did you feel that people will be opening up enough to reach out to a counselor, or would they feel that they would get labeled as maybe crazy or stupid or other weirdly, yeah, loose
So
terms?
first resistance I felt it's from my own organization. So when I muted this idea that we should have a mental health helpline, so the first resistance was, what is the need of it? Who will come up front and talk about it? So I had to explain to many people and convince many people to start this helpline. Initially, when we started this helpline, it was only 50 calls, and all of them were asking them to be kept anonymous, and none of them were opening up. But as you build the trust, and as you have the confidence building measures with your people, with people around you, you, as much as you normalize this thing, then you let people know that it's okay, it's totally fine to be not fine. So I think governments also have to play a certain role, and the counselor or the doctors also, their art you might be knowing better, how they deal with the patients. They have to entrust this confidence in their patient that, you know, it's okay if you're not feeling fine, just talk to me, I'll try to solve things for you. So the stigma is there, especially I would say for housewives, the stigma is very much there. A study shows that 3% of the women in India who are married are depressed because of one circumstance or another, and they are just too stigmatized to open up. So that is where the work of government and good counselors and good therapists come in time, and of course your social support system. So they will let you know that it's okay, it's fine, it's not a stigma, it's not a taboo. And in my personal capacity, I don't think it's a taboo. It's just like any other physical illness.
So people also wonder if it's a weakness of character to say, or a weakness
No.
of competence to say that they are struggling with mental health issues, because a lot of people equate mental health with strength somehow, with being strong in their heads or being strong in the mind. So, did you encounter similar problems with when you were thinking of
Yes.
putting the help?
Yes, I would tell you, people in my profession, especially, they are so scared of coming out in open and telling about their depressed lives if they have depression, just because they think that it's a stigma. A, B, it will weaken their reputation in the society. B, C, it will question their decision making system. So, to all those people, I will have to tell that, you know, our brain has two parts. One is cognitive part and one is emotive part. So sometimes there must be a ghapla in the emotive part while the cognitive part is all fine. So some of the very intelligent people can also have gadbad in their emotions. And that is where we have to understand that while a person is depressed, his decision making capacity, his intelligence, his strength is not at all reduced, and it's all fine, it's all there. So it's something like saying that a fit person cannot have a heart attack ever in their lives. It is not possible. Sometimes very skinny people do get the heart attacks because the cholesterol gets deposited in their arteries or veins, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so in the same way, we people who are very strong willed, who are very determined, who think they are perfectly right in their emotive brains might get symptoms of depression or anxiety or restlessness. And it's okay to have those symptoms, and the more important thing is to identify when you need the help of a therapist. So it's not a symptom of weakness, I would say. I have encountered many people who seem so happy and strong from outside, but inside there is something missing and they are seeking help for it.
That is really, I mean, there were no better words to put it across. Yeah, it is very similar to what physical health is. And I think people understand it better when we try to give similar comparisons with mental health and physical health. So there is a one off question where somebody has asked that is 6 hours of online course or webinar a day fine? So
I think it's fine. It's fine as long as you don't strain your eyes and you don't strain your back and you
yeah,
have a good food and you don't stress on your sleep. So it's fine. 6 hours, 8 hours, it's all fine. 6 hours of binge watching a movie is also fine. Believe me that.
true, true. And I think what is important is that it's individual capacity. You know, everybody is different, so there is no fixed thing for. Let's say what might work for me might not work for you, might not work for somebody in our audience. Somebody in our audience might actually be. So there are some people. You know, I always kept on hearing that somebody is studying 12 hours a day, and I would wonder that how is that humanly possible. But now I realize that it is, you know, for some people it is possible, and there are individuals who might not for some individuals they need a break after 4 hours. So it's okay, it's okay. And what is more important is that we have to accept how we are and to streamline things for what works best for us. So you know, finding out ways of taking a break, taking a break from let's say the online courses or whatever job you're pursuing, and making sure that identifying what works for you individually is more important rather than, I think, going for these statements, factual statements.
Generalized statements. I know, I agree with you, Dr. Sneha. Also, I heard and I read some text that, you know, if in this pandemic period you don't come out stronger, you don't come out healthier, then you never had the excuse of time. That's all bullshit, I would say. That's all bullshit. So
I would also agree with that.
it's a time when you can actually have a leisure time. You can totally be non-productive in this time and it's fine. It's supposed to be like that. It's a lockdown. It was goddamn lockdown and everybody was so stressed in this time. If you maintain your mental health calm and if you remain healthy, that's a great achievement in itself. Why do you want to achieve some generalized milestone which was set up by somebody else? So I was very happy that I kept myself safe and I my mental cool was there, and that's it. That were the only two things I was worried about. So I did not think of any other thing like that, you know, I have to finish these books or I have to finish so much movies or I have to be so much productive. I think that's all in your head. These are general milestones set up by people which I don't believe that should be adhered to if they don't suit you.
That is true, and I think there were a lot of questions which were there for this regard. That people were asking: Is it happy? Is it okay to be? I mean, sorry, is there a need to be productive, or just being happy in these times is okay? That was one question, and a similar question is that somebody, on the contrary, is saying that they don't believe that a big journey is easy, and it takes a lot of effort, hard work, and discipline and failure and faith and consistency to lead you somewhere. So I think to both of these, I mean, what's your take on this?
So, I once had to fly to London, and I had an option of choosing a non-stop flight and a cheaper one-stop flight. What do you think I would have chosen? Considering I have good amount of money, and I have money. So what do you think?
I think you would have gotten for the non-stop one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you have the easier option, why would I want to go for the tougher one? Just when the destination is same, when I know I have to reach London, and I can have an option of having a non-stop flight, and I can have an option of having a one stop or two stop flight. Why go for difficult option if you can achieve the same thing with the easier option? I don't understand this mindset. This is very old school mindset that you have to rig yourself and you have to go through very hardships to achieve something beautiful in life. That might be true. That said, that hardships do pay off is true. But if you have an easier option and you know that you can reach out to your goal through that easier option also, I think you should go for it. There's no need to punish yourself with hardships and then go for the tougher options when you know the result is going to be the same.
True, that is true. But I think what this individual meant to ask is that we don't know what the future has in store. And I think from how I remember, I was as a younger individual, I was also very uncertain about my future, and which this brings in another question also, which I read that which has said that all of both of us have done a lot of hard work to achieve the milestones where we are, and they want to know the secret behind that, how we reach this journey this easily. It's not easy, first of all, and how someone can achieve that in his life to make it incredible. Yeah. So I think this angle also comes in. What the other individual was trying to ask, that when we are uncertain about the future, we want to put in really a lot of hard work, and everybody keeps on saying, put in, like, all these difficult words like discipline, hard work. There was a Amitabh Bachchan movie, right? Oh, Anushashan or Pratishtha, and yeah, something really hard words, which
Yes.
yeah. So do you think it's important to stick to those things to progress in life? Do you think it's important to reach, if you want to be somewhere in your life, and especially at positions where young people look up to, how to achieve those things without doing these things, like?
I think hard work, sincerity, and discipline are in general very good qualities. So I don't think that I would suggest somebody that don't do hard work. Of course, I will say that do hard work if you want to get success in your life, because these are generally very good for your life. I do hard work. I work sometimes 18 hours a day still now, because A, I like doing it, and B, it's generally a good thing to do. But if you are being forced upon to do so, and if you are forcing yourself to do so to achieve a milestone which has also been set up by not yourself, by somebody else, say from the society or your parents or your family, then I don't think it's a good thing to do. There might be lot of expectations of other people from you, but to me what is more important is what is my expectation of myself, from myself. So if you're doing hard work to meet out your own expectations, it's very good. But if you are doing hard work just to show people and just to meet out expectations of somebody else, I don't think that hard work will give you as much as happiness as some lesser work would have done so.
I think again, I agree with you, and yes, I think what has to be really taken into account when we discuss a lot of these things like hard work and consistency and discipline is that everybody comes from a different background individually. So there are so many factors which are playing in our lives which are beyond our control. So for that matter, the economic status of a family or the way that access to a lot of privileges might not come to everybody. For example, there are a lot of things like, being in a particular school, or being able to go somewhere, or able to put in some fixed amount. These all things depend on a lot of factors which are sometimes beyond an individual's control, like what the current situation in the world is and all those things. So it's very important to have individual goals, because all of us our starting point in the race is different from all of us. So this is where we have to lose. It cannot be a common goal for everybody. You
Yes,
cannot
and
go by what society is expecting, because society is assuming that everybody is starting from the same point, which is not true. There is so many foundations of uh, society, caste, culture, creed, which is preventing people. So you have to be strive to move beyond those, but also keeping in mind that you cannot stress yourself beyond a point, because to reach beyond a point where life seems worthless, to reach that level of frustration where everything feels worthless, it's better to like be one step behind in your life or
I
from that
totally
achievable goal.
I I totally agree, and that brings me to another book, and I am remembered of another book that's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you have read that book, that says that your success is a product of your chance, the opportunities you get, and the luck you have. So it's not always that we just know Bill Gates or people as who created Microsoft, but we don't know that he was born into a family who could afford him schooling where computing could have been done so easily. So,
Yeah.
these all things matter. For example, I'll give you an example of myself. I did my USMLE, and I was about to go to US and settle down there. But I suddenly decided that I want to do IS, and I don't want to go to US. I could only afford to do that because my parents had enough money, that they supported my dreams, and they supported that you can leave the US option. USMLE is not a cheap exam. It's a
That's
difficult,
true.
and it's a
That's
very expensive exam. So people might
yeah.
not have that money. So I'm a privileged child in that sense, and I know my privileges. The point is that you should know your privileges, and you should also know that other people might be privileged. So don't compare. Comparison
Yeah.
in this sense is not good.
Yeah, and I think that is where you have to just come up with your own goals, because other people's goal might not be valid for you, and you
Until
cannot
till what age will you have
keep on competing, keep on running. Yeah.
कितनी देर तक आप दूसरों के दिए हुए गोल्स पे जीते रहेंगे? आई मीन देयर हैज टू कम टू अ टाइम व्हेन यू हैव टू बी, जो एक वो शब्द बोलते हैं कि पैरों पे खड़ा होना और क्या है? पैरों पे खड़ा होना है कि टू मेक योर ओन गोल्स. सो कितनी देर आप दूसरों के बनाए हुए रास्ते पे चलेंगे और उनके गोल्स पे जिएंगे? सो आई थिंक व्हेन यू से you are independent, it doesn't mean that you are financially independent. It is that you are independent to make your own choices and to make all your own decisions, and that is the independence for me, and that is the independence level I should say one should expect from life.
I'm so glad you did not go to the US, Dr. Saloni. I mean, the country needed you, and you're doing a great, fabulous job here. So
Yes,
I'm so
actually,
glad things did not work out that way. And this is another thing, right? Sometimes we might feel that something is not working out, and we might feel really left out and distressed. And so, but sometimes it's just like stepping stone to another opportunity.
exactly. So my first salary in US would have been $5,000, and when I first started getting paid in India, it was 25,000 rupees. So I
Okay.
was so disheartened. I was so disheartened where I have landed up in. But now when I look back, I do not regret my decision. But there have been days where, and I actually regretted my decision. So I always thought, when there was so much political pressure and I was into a very small town, posted in a very small town where even light will not be available, I used to think that, what have I done with my life? But then that is the point where you have to decide that, okay, it's my choice, I have made that decision, and now whatever the repercussions I'll face it. I'm strong enough to face it. You have to constantly remind yourself. No, you see, at time of taking a decision, you don't know it's going to be how it's going to be, the results, the outcomes are going to be. So a decision should never be looked in the hindsight. I think a decision should be looked at the time when it was taken, whether it was taken with your own consent or not. If you have taken it with your own consent and your consciousness, it's all fine. We'll make it through.
Yeah. That's great. And I think you are more than qualified to answer the next question, which is what should be the mental framework of students after clearing so many exams? Please go ahead and help people find out what should be the mental framework of students.
I think the mental framework of the students after clearing the exams, right?
No, no, no. I was just saying that they are, it's a they are just asking what should be the mental health state of the mental framework of students. That's what the question is.
So while you are preparing for exams, it's okay to feel anxious. I remember when I was giving All India PMT, I used to cry at times when I used to get low marks in my class. I was so obsessed with biology that if I don't used to get 10% marks, I used to literally cry over those. In the hindsight, I think I should not have, but that time it's okay. Some amount of anxiousness, some amount of restlessness is shows that you have prepared for the exam and shows that you're working hard for the exam. So they are not bad. Everyone feels that. Everyone has gone through the same time. So I would say a little amount of anxiety and little amount of restlessness is good for your exams, but overall you have to keep a really cool and calm and composure. For example, I remember when I was writing my mains and for is I had absolute clarity that I will make it through it, and I am going to be calm and composed during that time because I have a fallback option. So that also depends. Like many people must be pursuing higher degrees, so they have to realize that okay, even if this doesn't work, I have this plan B which will work. So that brings me to the next part, that we should have plan B in life. So if you have a plan B, then you will understand that if plan A doesn't work, I have a fallback option. I'll do this and things will be fine.
Quite helpful. Yes, it's always good to have multiple plans in life and not be really sticking out to one plan. And it's okay to have a very practical like outlook towards those plans. So don't base the plans on fantasy. I think
Yes.
a very realistic understanding of things is very important. And sometimes due to our negative biases, we label ourselves as less achieving maybe, or we try to talk ourselves down. You have to, I think what is important is to be really to try to have a realistic picture of what situations are, and this is where exam grades and things help. I'm not saying that's the right way to grade somebody, but yes, those things, don't look at exams which keep on happening in schools and colleges as something which is wrong. If you're trying to read somewhere, maybe they can give you a realistic assessment of, eventually our education system is based on exam marks only, unfortunately.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So I can also read a question: how to manage two career goals simultaneously. As suppose I am pursuing PhD, but I also want to crack UPSC exam. Um, okay, so if you want to have two options, you should prepare accordingly. So the person who's asking that I have a PhD exam and I want to start preparing for UPSC, I would say then start preparing, dude. Please start preparing for UPSC. Just don't think in your head. Start reading the newspaper and start reading the books for it. I mean, you have to really manage your time accordingly, that you give both the options equal time. So it's just not that thinking will make something happen. So you start working on that, you get a good coaching, you get good guidance, and then you start reading about it, and then I think it will work out for you. I'm sure if you're pretty intelligent to crack a PhD, you will crack UPSC also.
True. I think that's a lot on a plate also, PhD with UPSC exams.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. Uh, Next question. We've seen that even after so much of hard work, we don't get success. What's your take on that?
That happens with everybody. That happens with everybody. So I'll give you example of my husband. My husband didn't clear his IS exam in first go. In the first go, he did not give a, even was a rank holder. He did not get any rank, and next year he was ranked 15. So what makes you think that in 1 year he did not do something extraordinary? Sometimes your success is also a product of your luck and your chance. So give away to a little luck and chance, and there are two things. If you are putting in too much hard work for something, you'll definitely achieve it. If you don't achieve it, just take a step back and think about it. Maybe you're doing the hard work in the wrong direction. Maybe this is not meant for you. Maybe the universe is trying to give you signs that you should move away from it. So you just take up those signs and don't be rigid, and you should be fluid in your dreams, I believe.
Right. So don't be stuck on maybe like failing in one thing after a lot of hard work might just mean that maybe that particular thing is not meant for you. Maybe like it's okay to move on. We get stuck on the idea of try until you succeed. I think trying too much in that direction is also not important. It's also important to step back and see that where the like failure is happening. Is it due to lack of passion? Is it due to lack of interest? Is it due to certain other things not working out which are beyond your control? So I think there are when I read about when I was reading psychiatry and I got to know about minds, I got to know that there are so many factors which if for some people maths, a part of their brain which is really well versed with arithmetic calculations, those individuals might have difficulty reading simple English sentences. So these things are way beyond your control. So your intelligence or way, these things are also determining the field of the nature of your work. So allow them. Don't, if you keep on trying to go to a region where you're not meant, it is going to probably give pain even longer in the long run also. So
Yes.
it's important to know about yourself, to know your where you want to stand, have a open view and look at the forest. There are so many opportunities just waiting to be explored.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
So ma'am, the next question is any tips to overcome the loss of purpose, especially during COVID-19?
Uh, that's a good question. I also get that thought, what am I doing? Loss of purpose is a very apt emotion which is coming these days. So only take is try to divert yourself from this emotion. Try to find a purpose in whatever you do. So for example, I told you that I was earlier, I few days back, I was feeling totally at loss of purpose, and I was feeling that I have not become an IS officer to make presentations. But then when I realized that okay, this is the work I have to do, whatever come through my way, then I started enjoying them. I started learning new things about them. You have to tell your mind. See, your mind is very clever. So either your mind tells you something or you tell your mind. So you tell your mind that this is also a good work. It might not make you 100% happy, but even if it's making you 95% happy, 90% satisfied, that's fine. That's totally fine. Make it your purpose. So don't be rigid on a fixed purpose. If you are finding some work, make it your purpose and make it your dream.
True. I think for the temporary times, it's okay. Every work, even in the dream job, work gets frustrating. So there are days when we all being in a job where we like. So maybe maybe out of 180% of the time we enjoy what we are doing, there will be 20% of the time when we absolutely hate what we are doing because it will not be to our liking. But that's part of any job. I think it will happen. There will be days.
Believe me, Dr. Sneha, it's part of, I have switched two jobs, and I can say that it's part of any job. And I would say three jobs: being a wife, being a daughter, being a medico, being an IS officer. uh, Four jobs I have done, and I would say no job is perfect. It
Perfect.
gives
And
you
it's
some
just
sense of
frustrating in each job.
satisfaction. It gives you some sense of satisfaction in some days. Some days are totally rosy and you feel so happy about your job, and some days you feel like pulling your hair and just feel like so frustrating. I do feel that in my job. I used to feel that in my previous job also. That doesn't mean I'll keep switching my jobs. Now that I found my niche, I'll stick to it, but with the acceptance that all days will not be equal, all days will not be rosy.
Perfect. I think on that note, it's time to wrap up the webinar, ma'am. And it was wonderful having you here, Dr. Saloni. And it was really, you
Totally
given some,
talking to you, and I enjoyed taking up the questions.
And you've given us some, our audience and me personally, some wonderful insights to look at and to introspect and
I've
self-reflect.
learned,
So thank you
I've
so much.
learned so many things from you also. This one
Thank
hour
you
of
so much. It was a pleasure having you here, and it was a
conversation.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure addressing this audience, talking to them, and
Oh,
thank you so much.
they
I
have
hope.
come up with wonderful questions. I'm sure if we had given them more time, they would shoot us with more questions. So the audience has been wonderful, of course, and so have been you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And we'll keep these webinars going on, even if the current webinar is getting over. Doesn't mean we'll come up with a new series of webinars where we'll be